An August sunset looms over Klein Bonaire, a fragile portrait of unspoiled natural beauty. As serene as it seems, future horizons for the tiny island are not so promising. Nestled 800 yards off the island coast of Bonaire in the Netherlands Antilles lies a dream for divers, a nesting spot for the sea turtle, and a place of peace for the Bonairean people. Since the dawn of time, Klein Bonaire has eluded the destructive threat of development. That is, until now.
There's always been talk about developing Klein Bonaire, and even 23 years ago when I first got here, there was always rumor that somebody was going to develop this island. Recently, especially in the last year or two, the talk has become more serious. Virtually no one wants to see the island developed. It's both unsound geologically and ecologically to develop that island. Only a handful of people might make a little bit of money out of this, but for a majority of the people, it would be just a disaster for both Klein Bonaire itself and for the island of Bonaire. Things just aren't going to work out if that gets developed.
We're getting out of our league, and this island just isn't what it used to be, and we're losing our charm. If our charm hasn't already been lost, we're just going to be something else. We're not even a good beach town. Not yet.
There are certain aspects that are very ticklish. I have seen documents from 20 years and up in which the island government and the central government give permission to the owners of this island to develop the island. They have permission to build hotels, they have permission to build resorts, they have permission to set up a casino. They even have a letter that the island government would help them setting up production of water and electricity. Well, the only thing I can say is that we hope that legally, because of that in the meanwhile 15 to 20 years passed already, that these compromises do not exist anymore legally.
You can say it for Bonaire. If Klein Bonaire is not kept this way, the turtles probably will not survive.
What happens with all your waste? How do you get your food, your fuel? You're going to have spills. How's it going to be transported? Those are questions that we really haven't actually got answers for, because that really is an underwater marine wilderness right now. And should be protected as such. And you certainly don't have ecologically oriented developments in a wilderness. You may have them around it, like we do on the shore here, but you certainly don't put them in the middle of it.
It's going to be very costly. I mean, how are you going to get? You're going to need a water plant. You're going to need an energy plant. Your garbage is going to have to ship it to mainland. Look at what happened to Alcatraz. They had to close that place down. The U.S. government couldn't even run it because it was so expensive. What kind of people are they going to bring in that can bring up so much money to be able to run this place smoothly?
You take one of the most beautiful recreational areas for the local population away from the local population.
That island belongs to Bonaire, it belongs to our people. So we will try to defend it all the way we can. That's not going to be developed.
There are people who own this island. But what they don't own and can never own is the reef that completely surrounds it. And that's the jewel in the crown of Klein Bonaire.
George Buckley has been coming to Bonaire for nearly 20 years to study and to photograph marine life. Leader of numerous Earth Watch expeditions on northern coastal ecology, he has taught at Harvard since 1975.
Density and diversity. And around Klein Bonaire, when you look at the fish, when you look at the corals, look at the sponges, you see some of the densest accumulations of life. In other words, there just simply aren't very many open spaces in the bottom. And then when you look at the variety, the diversity of that life, it's absolutely phenomenal in terms of the fish, the corals, the sponges, probably the highest in the Caribbean and rivals the rest of the world, certainly the top 10 around the whole world for the diversity of life you see there. Part of that has happened because that island doesn't have impacts on its local coastal environment, on the shallow reefs, and then the shallow reefs don't have a serious impact on the deeper reefs. And the worry we have about any major use of Klein Bonaire would be that major use could create silt, could create nutrients that would certainly impact the reefs. And since there's currents going around Bonaire, what was an impact maybe even on only a small part of Klein Bonaire could in point of fact affect the entire side of Klein Bonaire that impact was centered upon. We also feel that many of the species there, when they breed, some of their spawn go to other islands. So in some way this may well be a nursery that helps to repopulate still other areas along Bonaire or even other areas. You are in an underwater forest when you're diving off Klein Bonaire, or even when you're snorkeling off Klein Bonaire or sailing off Klein Bonaire, because you got this phenomenally rich variety of life that's below you. And it's life that's healthy, it's life that's diverse, it's life that's densely packed in. And a lot of people don't really appreciate it for what it is. They just think, oh, it's all that stuff. But each and every species there depends on other species. This is this great symbiosis, this great metamorphosis of life as we know it, where one species depends on another species in a mutualistic fashion. And what you've really got over there is a phenomenal variety of habitats. And any impact that affects one can affect the whole ecosystem. And so when we look at that as scientists, we are amazed at the denseness and the diversity of that life. When we go there as divers, the beauty of this entire place, the ephemeral beauty of shapes, of colors, of action as things move back and forth, and of the beautiful rainbow effect that you get as you see all these mutated patterns of color and size and shape all in one environment as your eyes go past it. And oftentimes you think of various classical music passages as you're looking at this beautiful subsurface scene just off the shores of Klein.
And you don't give a damn about whether they build on the island. You give a damn whether they kill the reef.
If they had any sense whatsoever about Bonaire, they would know that trying to build a lot of hotels over there will virtually end Bonaire, because that's what the diving's all about. It's Klein.
Pesticides. If they start developing, they're going to be using who knows what to landscape. Coastal development, we know, is not very healthy for our reefs. So it's all a very big mishmash of problems that we can be confronted with, which we don't really want to deal with as locals.
On an almost daily basis, I get to deal with people who never dove before. And for 90% of those people, when they come back out, their life has changed just because of the fact that they felt, wow, I can be underwater, I can be in this completely different world that is full of life, and the fish will come right at you, and you look at all these colors. And it's amazing, it's just beautiful. There's tiny little fishes, you see interact with huge fish, you see the corals, the soft corals waving, the hard corals. It's living.
Why would they want to be known as the people that destroyed the environment around Bonaire? But I guess people will do anything for money.
The X factor is what happens on the land that could then affect the coastline.
Doctor of Geology Gordon Yuntz spent about 20 days surveying Klein Bonaire's geology. In addition, he circled the island by boat, completing nearly a dozen dives. His findings reveal not only a risk to the reef, but a more imminent danger to developers.
Well, I think building on the island would be hazardous for the builder. The subterranean development of the island is full of natural sinkholes, and it's very, very weak. I think that the fact that it's subject to landsliding at the present time, submarine landsliding, this would development and building on the island would increase this. I think it's almost inevitable that collapse structures would occur. The natural sinkhole development of Klein Bonaire is extensive, much more in a way than the main island of Bonaire. The bird nesting areas, the turtle nesting areas that are now developed around the beaches of Klein Bonaire would also be disrupted. Everyone recognizes the magnificence of the coral development, but natural coral is very, very subject to degradation by construction or by development of any kind, and especially subject to degradation by silt outflow. If there were any construction, the silt development of this construction would certainly degrade the coral of Klein. When you consider the amount of effort that has been expended to preserve the reefs of Bonaire for the last 30 years, to allow a precious gem like Klein to slide into development would be an undermining event in the history of development of the park system of Bonaire.
Derek Nord and Joris van Rossum are biology research students from the University of Amsterdam.
We also considered putting a fence around it if we know that it's a nest, but people are too curious to stay away. Some people
They are part of a continuing project to track the habits of sea turtles who use Klein Bonaire as their nesting grounds.
Klein Bonaire is very, very special in the Caribbean region because it's one of the few places where no tourists are, where no people live. And the turtle is not really adapted to modern life. They're not adapted to people on the beach. They're not adapted to strange noises and strange light. So if you want to keep the turtle, if you want to make sure it survives, you have to have quiet places. And Klein Bonaire is perfect for it because there are just no people, no lights, no sounds. So basically it should be a preserved area. You can say it for Bonaire. If Klein Bonaire is not kept this way, the turtles probably will not survive and they will go somewhere else or just die out.
The main problem is the developing industry of tourism. More and more people come to these kind of places and turtles become less and less, and the loss of potential nesting habitats is the main problem. I saw a turtle coming to land now a couple of times, and it is a very dramatic sight to see an animal which is so helpless on the land, and it's especially vulnerable when it comes to the land because it's really not used to land. So when it comes on the land you can see it struggle, and we saw it try to dig a hole, it landed on the stones, it cut itself, it was bleeding, and it was really a dramatic sight. And then only the third night it came to the sand and it could lay its eggs. And that's really a beautiful thing to see, because you see hours of work put into it. It's exhaustive business, and after hours, when she succeeds laying all the eggs like little ping pong balls, they come out and she covers it up again. Well, I think you have a good look of how really nature has shaped this animal, and you can see it live at work, and that's what I like about it. It's a real thing of nature. Back to where she belongs.
I don't know if you have seen a little just hatch turtle, but they're that small, and they are about 40 centimeters deep in the sand. So they have a way of doing that. The temperature at night is a trigger for the turtles to go out of the eggs. And when one does, all does. It's kind of a chain reaction. So one turtle hatches, all hatch. And they need each other because they need each other to pull them up out of the bottle-shaped hole. They can't climb up for themselves, but they need about 50 or 60 other turtles. So what they do, the night is a trigger, the temperature drops, the turtle hatch, and they climb up. And they can't make it in one night, but usually do that in 2 or 3 nights. So they climb up, the temperature rises again in the day, they stop. At night they start again, and after 3 nights they just come out of the sand and walk directly to the sea. And that is another problem, because the trigger for them to go to the sea is the light. You have the stars and you have the moon reflecting on the water. And that is for the small turtles a trigger to go that direction. But when you have a light, say, there from hotels or cars, they will be fooled and they will go that way. And they will just dry out there or get driven over by a car. So that is another big problem. The problem is, the problem is that the big turtles won't come ashore when there are lights, but if they do come and the turtles do hatch, the hatchlings will walk the wrong direction and they won't reach the sea ever.
Foundation President Bruce Bowker came to Bonaire in the early 70s. He owns and operates an inn that caters especially to divers.
A group of people got together to set up a legal foundation that would be recognized by the Bonairean government to collect funds and do whatever is possible to see that the development is either curtailed, stopped, or delayed if necessary until things can be worked out to try to get this island turned into a national park, which is our goal. We want to see the island turned into a national park, kept as it is, preserved, with absolutely no development on that island whatsoever. That's the goal of the foundation.
Ramsar Convention was in '71 in Iran, in a city in Iran, and this area, this Klein Bonaire, falls under this site. And I was speaking to an official from Holland the other day, and he told me, as long as you have that is your backup. That nothing, they cannot develop.
We are not willing to give them permission. This government, I can guarantee you, that will not give any permission. I mean, if we have to build a pier for certain facilities, that is something different. Small things, with the permission from the marine park. But to construct anything on the island, this government will not give any permission. If they take us to court, then the judge has to decide, considering.
Our real history is the establishment of the true diving etiquette and industry of the world. You know, we are heroes, and nobody should ever forget it.
Donate. Donate and send your letters in. Don't let those letters stop coming, because the Island Council gets letters in all the time.
Every buck put against there is another name, and that means something. It's going to mean something to somebody in Holland who has to put the big bucks up to buy Moore's Nini off.
I think the majority of the people in Bonaire believe that it has to be protected. It has to be accessible for our fishermen, for our divers, for our tourists, for our visitors, for everybody, but that there should be no development on the island that would destroy the wonderful small paradise that we have in front of this big paradise, is just Bonaire.
Since the foundation was formed, we have gotten an awful lot of response about it. All of it was positive in favor of us. Not one single email, not one single letter, nothing to the government, to the best of my knowledge, said, oh, let it get developed, it would be great. Every single person was against this, everyone. We've gotten thousands of email messages. Rodale's Scuba Diving Magazine put out a web page about Klein Bonaire. The response from that was phenomenal.
The response has been great. Ever since it's been up, it's been getting about 500 signatures a month. As of today, it's up to 2,100 signatures and climbing. It really reflects the average diver's interest in Bonaire as a top destination, their desire to see it preserved, and their desire to see Bonaire have a healthier long-term economic picture from repeat diving business. The letters we get regarding Klein Bonaire usually echo the same thing. It's people, couples, and families that say, we dive Bonaire year after year after year after year because of the condition and the health of the reefs. And since they're addressed to the government, they say, please keep your firm stand and don't let anything damage that.
We even got people that went as far as to say that if Klein Bonaire gets developed, we will never return to Bonaire again.
There's lots of dive destinations, but that place is a real special place.
It's a little island that all the Bonaireans feel it's just a piece of Bonaire also.
We have certain tools that we can prevent any construction on Klein Bonaire, and we will use all of them.
That is the real and very rare beauty of it, because there's very few places left in the world that it's exactly like that. Even Bonaire proper was considered very pristine, but compared to that, that is the reality of the word pristine. Nothing is there. It should be left alone.
To send a donation or for more information, write to Foundation Preservation Klein Bonaire, P.O. Box 68, Bonaire, Netherlands, Antilles. Address letters in support of the Island Council to Island Government of Bonaire, Wilhelmina Plaza, Bonaire, Netherlands, Antilles. Or sign the online petition at Rodale's Scuba Diver Magazine homepage. Just type in www.scubadiving.com on your internet browser.
Unfortunately, once that development starts, there's no turning around, and I am positive that if it ever got developed, in the end, people would say, oops, we shouldn't have done that. Well, let's just not get that far.
It's a tough deal, and I really, I think if we just keep at it, we'll get somewhere with it. A squeaky wheel always gets the oil. I think I'd like to end with that note.